right, so we're heading out, starting at Khao San, and we're gonna do what most visitors to Thailand do as a first off experience. They head over to the Grand Palace. That's the old palace of Bangkok, and it's one of the really most beautiful and amazing places in the world, actually. Over here is the Coin Museum of Thailand. Okay, so in a second we're going to be coming up to a bit of a scam spot. You're going to see some trees just in a second. They've got maps on them which look like they've been haphazardly stuck up there. Those maps are not to be helpful. They're for tuk-tuk scam and taxi scams, mostly for tuk-tuk scams. And oh look, police station. And here are the trees with the maps here, and some tuk-tuk drivers sitting nearby. An interesting place to decide to park up, right? So basically, people stop and look at the maps, then they know that you're a newbie, that you don't have experience here, and then a friendly person, a very friendly person, comes to help you and gives you advice and probably tells you things are closed that you would like to visit, and tries to put you in a tuk-tuk. And they stand around here. So their whole scam is to put you in a tuk-tuk, which they say will be very, very cheap, and it will take you on an alternate tour of really cool, lesser known temples. And I actually fell for that scam kind of when I first came here. But basically the tuk-tuk driver can stop at all these different kinds of temples, but then also includes tailor shops, and most notoriously of all, gem shops. That's why it's called the gem scam. So if you buy something, you're not going to get what you paid for. That's the way it works, basically. And the quality and the value doesn't match your expectations, what you've been told. So it can be a lot of money. Let's run for our lives here. Of course, traffic lights and pedestrian crossings in Thailand are kind of considered as pretty things to look at. It seems like a lot of drivers don't really understand what they're about. So don't trust crossing signals, don't trust pedestrian crossings, because they're not respected, put it that way. Anyway, so yeah, the gem scam. But yeah, they'll tell you you have to pay maybe 10 or 20 baht for a little bit of a tuk-tuk tour around a few temples. Let's run again. Okay, it's red, but we're gonna run. Traffic can come from any direction here, pretty much. You're gonna be standing a long time if you wait, and if you wait for the signal to change, it still might not be safe anyway. Okay, so let's get across here. So there's Ratchadamnoan Avenue, the Royal Avenue down there, which just behind the Royal Hotel, beautiful old hotel. Behind there's Klong Lod area, which you can find out about from one of my other videos. And of course, where we came from, Khao San, I've got a video up about that. And down here is very interesting, but we're gonna today cross over and come up this way. Lots of people with nowhere to go like to congregate around the neighborhood, in the royal neighborhood. Anyway, so yeah, back to the gem scam thing. So I kind of fell for it when I first came here, but I was on my guard. So they said 10 baht tuk-tuk tour of lesser known temples. So I thought, okay, I'll do it, right? So when we came to temples, it was obvious like a donation would be appreciated, but it wasn't like mandatory. Okay, so that was all good. Next step was we came to a tailor shop, and the tuk-tuk driver said, "Oh, please just have a look inside, only 2 minutes. They give me petrol voucher. Please help me. You don't have to buy anything." So I thought, well, okay, why not? As a kind of cultural experience. At this point, it was pretty obvious there's some kind of a thing involved which is was not quite above board, and still isn't, of course. And so I had a quick peek just to check the whole deal out. Then back in the tuk-tuk, went around to, I think it was a gem shop next. This was really like a big red flag, of course, like massive one. And it was the same deal. The tuk-tuk driver said, "Oh, please just have a look for 2 minutes. You don't have to buy anything. They give me a petrol voucher." So I was like, okay. So anyway, that's the gem scam. In the end, I didn't buy anything, and I paid 10 baht, and I had my kind of little temple tour, and it was okay. But it took a long time, and I wouldn't do it again because you waste a lot of time stopping at the other places. Anyway, back to where we are now. We're outside the Supreme Court of Thailand here. Anyway, just along this stretch, you have to be careful of another scam, but I haven't seen it happen for years. They would have a woman, a middle-aged woman, come running up to you. She'd be feeding birds birdseed. Then she'd come running up, and she would have little packets of birdseed. She'd try to make you take one from her. She'd push it in your hand. If you took it and started feeding the birds, because you'd think it's free, she'd then say you have to pay more than what it's obviously worth, right? So yeah, someone tried this on me, of course, when I first came here, and I put my hands down so they couldn't put it in my hands, and the woman, and then I put my hands back up to kind of make her, you know, I was kind of being like, stop, and then she stuck it in the bend of my elbow, and then I just bent my arms down again so it fell on the ground. So she starts wailing. She starts hollering like I dropped her product, I have to pay for it. I just kept a straight face and walked away with one eye over my shoulder, and that was the end of that. Okay, you can see on the right there's a big park. Is it for chopping off heads? Not really anymore. I don't know, in the past it might have been or might not have been, I'm not sure about that. Seems like it would be a handy place for it though. But they do a lot of royal ceremonies there, that's for sure. And we're gonna make a little run for it. You can see there's the magnificent Grand Palace there, and we're gonna wander past. So let's run for our lives again. Don't expect anyone to stop for you. And taxi drivers like to stop and cut you off because they hope you're gonna get in their taxi. Don't think he's being polite. He might be being polite, but he's hoping for a fare. All right, across the other side of Sanam Luang, this park, you can see there's a university over there. That's Thammasat. In the 70s, they had a student revolt. Thousands, or at least hundreds of students were killed by the authorities. Over here, it's the Museum of Thailand. Not amazing, but it's kind of okay. And behind the Museum of Thailand, there's Silpakorn University, which we'll see later. Let's head on down. So, Sanam Luang, sometimes it's open, sometimes it's not. It doesn't seem to have any rhyme or reason, because this is Thailand, and they can do it like that if they want. So, okay. All right, so don't expect any sensible thing, but oh my goodness, look, it's open here. But if I go in here, can I get out somewhere that's sensible? Probably not. So I'm gonna keep going along here so I don't get stuck in a cul-de-sac in there somewhere. Doesn't seem to be anyone in there. All right, let's wander along. So I just walked past a very good bus stop, actually. If you're staying around Khao San Road area, there are many buses that stop at that bus stop to go to quite far away areas in the city that might be useful for you. So you should remember that. But there's no shelter from the rain there. You should always have an umbrella in Thailand anyway. Stops the sun and the rain. It's a nice day today, bit of a breeze. You can see the flags are flying there, fluttering in the breeze. And it's a little bit overcast, slightly cloudy. It's lovely. This is a nice day. I'm only sweating a little bit as opposed to being totally drenched. Okay, so on the left side you see there's a really cool kind of thing. It looks like some kind of confectionery. This is the city pillar shrine of Bangkok. So all the decent sized towns and cities have a city pillar shrine in Thailand. It's like a little stone column, usually stone, that signifies the founding of the place at some point in the mists of history. Sometimes not that long ago as well, but all right, so it's inside there. It's a popular place to pray for some kinds of things. And there are military buildings around it as well, which are quite interesting. We'll have a peek in a second. Let's wander across the frontage of the palace. So some tuk-tuks ready to pick people up. Always be careful with negotiating with tuk-tuk drivers. Okay, let's run back across. Always be careful with those guys. It's quite clever to write the price agreed on a piece of paper before you start to go wherever you've told them you want to go. Then if there's any dispute at the end of the ride, you can bring out the piece of paper, and that hopefully will put an end to any problem. Look at that, one of the wonders of the world in my opinion, the Grand Palace of Bangkok, Thailand. It's got its own temple, it's got a whole bunch of museums inside, and they're really good ones too. So it costs about maybe 13 American dollars or 14, maybe 12 euro, something like that to get inside. It's well worth it. Really, I've been to tons of amazing palaces throughout Europe. The city pillar shrine there. Let me tell you, the Grand Palace is super high quality. It looks fantastic on the outside. And inside, the museums in there, about 3 or 4 of them, they're very, very interesting, really nice. This is a military headquarters building. There's a bunch of cannons outside here that were captured, probably mostly from Myanmar, I would imagine. There's a long history of conflict between Myanmar and Thailand, not to mention Cambodia and Thailand. But those days hopefully are all over. It's a grand building anyway. This is really the heart of Bangkok. In the late 1700s, the capital of Thailand was moved here to Bangkok after a terrible war with Myanmar, in which the old capital city of Ayutthaya was sacked by the Burmese. Of course, back then Myanmar was known as Burma by Europeans. So anyway, in the time that they were trying to reorganize the shattered army in this region to make a counterattack against the Burmese and drive them out of Thailand, they had to focus a lot around here, and it's natural, of course, that it was then eventually decided that it might be a good idea to move the capital to here, which eventually happened. So that's why the capital's here today. It's good to know something about the history of every country that you want to visit before you go there. It makes the whole thing a lot more tasty and adventurous and interesting, because you know what's actually happening and what it means, why it's happening. Yeah, so that's why there are a bunch of military buildings as well next to the Grand Palace. Of course, it had to be like that in the past times. Now there's been peace for a long time, so yeah, Thailand's kind of in a golden age, I would say. It's been doing mostly very well in the last century. Of course, there's always challenges, but in general, it's been doing very well. So this is a beautiful area, and as I said in the beginning, this is the first area that most foreigners walk around and have a look at when they come to Thailand for the first time. And I've walked around here many times just because it's so nice. I really like this area a lot. Here's an old style street car food vending dude. Hello. It's got some real Thai type style snacks there. So I could see he had some roasted peanuts and other things that appeal more to Thai people for the most part. Side gate open there. If you want to go into the Grand Palace and see the museums and have a walk around and see the temple in there, then back on the corner, back where we saw the tuk-tuks, instead of coming this way, you take a right, follow the outside of the palace wall, and you'll see the main entrance for that, just along there a little bit on the left. And it's all very simple, right across the road from the park there, Sanam Luang. Here's a really sweet little park on the left side. I think it's one of the nicest parks in Thailand. It's very old. I believe it was a tea garden in the past for royalty, but it's a public park now. We're not going to go in there at this time, but in a future video we'll take a shortcut through there and have a wee peek, because it's really delightful. Actually, it's very shady. It's got some ponds, lots of trees and all kinds of stuff, an old tea house and so on. We'll check that in another video. But for now, we're gonna continue with the main highlight of Bangkok, which is this area with the Grand Palace and around it. Well, we're coming up on the very, very famous Wat Po. Wat Po is one of the most famous temples in Thailand. It's got the famous reclining Buddha, a gigantic golden Buddha laying down, which is an amazing photo opportunity, and it's really breathtaking to see the first time, or any time really. Don't let any scammers put you off. There's usually always some scammers hanging around outside. They'll try to tell you it's closed, and they'll try to put you in one of those gem scam tuk-tuk rides. And the other thing is, some people might say you're not dressed appropriately, and then the same thing, try to put you in a tuk-tuk scam ride. So just ignore them. That's the way to do it. But Wat Po is amazing. So here's another military building opposite Wat Po and opposite the nice little park that we talked about. And there's a museum in this building, but good luck getting into it because it never seems to be open. I would love to have a look at it. All right, so you can see, you can get a good view here of Wat Po. We're not gonna pay and go inside and film it because this is a walking tour, but it's very much worth it, and it's very cheap, really. But you can incorporate that into your walking tour, and of course you should. But for the Grand Palace, you should give yourself a couple hours to have a proper look through there, and don't skip anything. Trust me on that. There's a few things you might think sound like they should be skipped, but I wouldn't do that. This is a drum tower, which back in the day was used to signal some things, which I don't remember which things, but maybe the time of day, I think, and maybe changing of guard or something along those lines. It's got a memory like Swiss cheese. It's full, memory full. So bits and pieces of memories seem to like drop out like a corrupted hard drive. But anyway, never mind. So another way there into the palace area that kind of goes between the palace and the next thing there behind there, which I think is part of it as well, but not a public area, something like that. Or is it a second temple? I don't remember, but all right, we'll get up along here. Well, you can see it looks like a temple as well. It's probably a second one, I would think, with nothing really exciting, if I remember correctly. But it looks okay here, walking past. Okay, so I'm just showing you guys highlights, really. If you wander down other streets, side streets that you see in my walks, sure, you're gonna find some interesting stuff. There's always some interesting shops, and you always can stumble upon bits and pieces. But all of my walks are very carefully curated over my 20 years of experience with Thailand, and quite often multiple trips to other countries that I cover and will be covering in the future. So they're really curated kind of walks to make sure that you can get the best out of each walk. Put a lot of thought into these walks. All right, here's the Sanam Chai MRT station. You've got an entrance here on this side and one just inside the entrance to the Museum of Siam here. So the Museum of Siam is a very worthwhile museum. The Museum of Siam is very multimedia style, but it's in a lovely old building. So it's a lot of fun for people of all ages. In the way that it's very colorful and interactive, and I definitely recommend it. So the MRT station we just passed is one of the Blue Line stations, which is the handiest subway line in Bangkok, which goes in a big loop around the most interesting parts of the city. Using that line, you can pretty much connect with anywhere. It's a lot cheaper than other ways, if you're alone at least, and has good quality aircon. It's a good way to cool down, and it's just quite nice. The Sanam Chai station we just passed is a very nice station also. It looks very good inside, I might add. So there's the network. You can see Blue Line is a circle in the middle of the network of the various colored lines. Not so long ago, Bangkok only had a couple subway lines. A whole bunch of them have opened up in the last few years, and there's a few more coming online very soon. And there's a whole bunch more that are under construction or about to be started. So it's a good time. It's a good time for Bangkok. And the next year it's just going to get easier. In the past, it was very hard to get around in Bangkok. It's so crowded, so much traffic and pollution, and it's so hot. Now it's a lot easier. All right, so this corner looks a little bit kind of shambolic, but it's just from the old street design that exists from the days before people had cars. And it's an interesting thing with Bangkok that a lot of stuff doesn't seem to be particularly designed with, you know, any real kind of idea of the future, but it adds to its charm. This is a charming canal, by the way. This is the canal we passed earlier before we came to the big park, Sanam Luang, and the walk along there is quite nice too, but we'll cover that in a different walk. All right, to the left here is the flower market neighborhood, which we're going to cover in another walk as well, and that's a nice area. And just in front of us, you see there's a kind of pumping kind of station, a dam, and that blocks the water in case of flooding.
Where you go?
Another exit for the same MRT station here, Sanam Chai.